And yeah, she kind of explicitly said, like, I am pro-renter, and like emphasized it like that to try to convince people.
I am pro-renter.
Which definitely felt like it was responding to comments has heard that she's not pro-renter, and which Katie Cashman rightfully pointed out.
My opponent did fill out an application for a corporate PAC to support her in this race and answered a question on whether she would support new renters' rights with no new renters' rights are needed.
We're rolling. We're rolling.
This is a real thing. Real thing.
None of you have the balls to stop this. Stop this.
I've got plenty of time. I have nothing else going on today.
We're in the Wedge neighborhood right now.
We are back on the Wedge Live podcast. I'm your host, John Edwards. Joining me today, as always, Taylor Dahlin, our photographer and Ward 7 correspondent, and Heather Silsbee, also a Ward 7 correspondent, for first-time appearance here. Thank you for joining us, Heather.
Thank you. Excited to be here.
Ward 7, in my estimation, one of the key city council races. Like, balance of power on the Minneapolis City Council could hinge on who wins, and there's a huge difference between the candidates, I think. I have my preference. And we have incumbent Council Member Katie Cashman, who was elected just 2 years ago, after 25 plus years of Lisa Goodman, and challenger representing the Fry Pack coalition of candidates, Elizabeth Shaffer. Heather, let's start with you. So the reason I invited you here and why I started thinking about you is you wrote this thing about Shaffer's response to passage of the big, beautiful bill, like contrasting the two candidates' reactions to the Trump administration and what's happening nationally. Can you talk about what struck you about the difference between the candidates in that regard?
Yeah. I'm Heather Silsbee. I'm living in the West McCaska neighborhood. I agree that this race is really important. It very well might determine the balance of power on the council. And I think one of my top issues this year personally, both for city council and for mayor, is how the candidates talk about our national politics situation, how clear-eyed they are about how bad it is, and how willing they are to kind of go to the bat, at least at the local level, to ensure that their constituents are as safe and cared for as possible when the federal government is not going to be helping us at all. I thought it was very telling. Both Katie Cashman and Elizabeth Shaffer sent emails for their campaigns addressing it. And I thought Councilmember Cashman's response was great. It was very well written. I don't know who her comms person is, but kudos to them. I'm sure it was a collaborative effort. It was great. It was basically kind of laid out what I just said, that we need to be clear-eyed and realize that after the passage of the, quote, big, beautiful bill, we're not going to be getting any funding for the things we care about from the federal government anymore. So we need to be really considerate about how we spend our money, what we focus on, and then also about what we can do at the local level to protect people, to protect LGBTQ people, to protect immigrants, anybody who might be particularly targeted in the Trump administration. So I really appreciated that from her. And she specifically said that, like, she is going to work on that with us as much as she can. Whereas Commissioner Shaffer, she sent an email as well. And
can we quote from it? Do we have it available to quote from?
Yeah, I was going to grab.
Oh, okay. I have the part that touched my heart, and I can read from it. Hi, John. Watching President Trump sign his big, beautiful bill last week reminded me how far we've fallen in Washington. I know many of us, myself included, are deeply concerned about the president's callous disregard for everyday people on the national level. But as your current park commissioner and the only DFL and labor-endorsed candidate for Ward 7 City Council, I intentionally focus my time and energy on our great city and parks. And then towards the end, We deserve a council member who prioritizes us. I won't spend my time talking about international or national issues unless they directly affect our lives in Ward 7. And I certainly won't try to divide us. I'll be laser focused on good governance for every resident of Ward 7. So join me and make a difference in our community, yada, yada. That's what touched my heart, those two things.
Yeah, same. I actually, just you reading it, the part that struck me that didn't strike me last time was and I won't try to divide us when in the context of talking about Trump. That seems a little odd.
Right, as if pointing out the problems with Trump is going to cause us to fight amongst ourselves, as if she's got a big Republican constituency she needs to keep happy. Maybe.
Interesting. Maybe we'll get back to that. But yeah, same. It struck me specifically the last part where she said that she won't spend her time talking about international or national issues unless they directly affect our lives in Ward 7. To me, that says that maybe she doesn't have many people in her life that have been directly affected by federal policies under the Trump administration, but I definitely do. I'm queer. My partner is non-binary. We have a lot of trans friends. We have immigrant friends. We have people who specifically moved to Minneapolis or Minnesota because it's safer than where they lived before politically. I thought that was pretty, it was a red flag for me that she doesn't think that what's happening in the Trump administration will directly affect our lives in Ward 7.
So some people might say, well, what's wrong with Elizabeth Shaffer only focusing on local issues, the things she can control, right? Maybe I'm somebody who thinks it's grandstanding to try to prove how anti-Trump you are. I can remember Lisa Goodman in 2017, she lost the DFL endorsement, and she wrote a Facebook post that was essentially, why do I have a challenger? Like, why are we fighting amongst ourselves when the real problem is Trump? She did like the reverse Shaffer, where she's like, why so much trouble on the local level trying to displace me? Our real enemy is Trump. And Elizabeth Shaffer is like, stop with this trying to prove who is the most progressive, who's anti-Trump. What I'm really focused on is the local stuff. And I guess one difference between those is we have a progressive incumbent now, and Lisa Goodman was the incumbent then. But what do we say to people? Like, what's the problem with just focusing on local stuff? Why do we have to take note of our national environment in local politics?
I think it also just plain trickles down in really concrete ways that I'm surprised Shaffer wouldn't recognize. I mean, if federal funds are being cut to like various social services, like group homes, like where do those people go? You know what I mean? Like when you see like more and more people on the street because they don't have anywhere else to go, it's like, is that happening because federal funds to various programs and services are being cut? So it's like, it's easy to say that it doesn't impact you, but it's like these things all trickle down in really material ways.
Yeah, I agree. And both the financial aspect and then also just the environment that he's creating with his policies, with his pretty unprecedented use of the National Guard to invade cities. Very possible we'll be on the list for that soon. So I think it's both like financially we need to be even better at managing our money and putting it towards where it counts. And then also socially, we need people who are willing to stand up for us if Trump does directly attack us, which seems very possible. We need people who are going to stand up and actually try to keep us safe.
So I'm assuming everyone, Taylor, you watched the forum. You and I sat next to each other at the forum. Heather, were you there in person?
I was. I arrived a few minutes late, so I had to like grab a chair from the back and put it to the side.
Were there moments at the candidate forum that stood out to you? Did you find it as fascinating as I did, Heather?
No, I don't think I wouldn't call it fascinating. I guess from a meta level, it was fascinating, because, from both John and Taylor, what you posted on Blue Sky, I think we are aligned in that it was, a lot of non-answers from Elizabeth Shaffer. And I saw her, the last time I saw her speak at length on these issues was at the Ward 7 convention, and her answers weren't great then either, but at least they had a little bit more substance to them, whereas this time it seems like she was coached or made the decision to like say everything is great, she supports everything, and not take any firm positions. So that made it a little difficult to find out like how she actually feels about things.
Yeah, so she was hedging in a way that the reason I found it fascinating is because she seemed so confident at the Minneapolis DFL convention, the Ward 7 convention months ago. She seemed to be putting on a different face, like a shiny, happy, more progressive face. Like, I support renters' rights. I'm the pro-renter candidate. Whereas her answer, as Cashman pointed out to that FRIPAC questionnaire, was no more renters' rights. And then there was a question on transportation where it was about the aggressive 60% mode shift goals, like 60% of trips in Minneapolis by non-car modes. That's a city goal. And like, do you support it? She said she supports it, but then like at the end of her answer, which surprised me to hear her say just unequivocally, I support it. And then we got to the end of the answer, where it was like, okay, here's the game she's playing. But of course, my style of leadership is to always talk to the stakeholders, and there's her out.
The city's Transportation Action Plan goal is that by 2030, 60% of the trips in the city will be taken on public transit or made by biking and walking. Do you support this policy?
So yes, I do strongly support these goals. At the same time, this is how I lead. We need to listen to all stakeholders in the discussion around infrastructure changes, et cetera, et cetera.
Right? I support it until I get to the point where I talk to Mike Erlinson and the other wealthy stakeholders who will tell me, no, absolutely not. And I'll be like, well, I couldn't do it. I couldn't go against the stakeholders. So I found it interesting that she was hedging and felt the need to hedge. Like, she's not confident that she has this wrapped up simply by playing it to the conservative end of the Minneapolis DFL. Like, she has to come to the middle and grab up some people who think of themselves as progressives.
Yeah.
Like, I was really struck by two things. Like, the 311 answer really was the one that I could not, like, I'm still just like, it was a question about 311 accountability, and she could not answer it. Said that she
whiffed. She whiffed.
She said she needed to learn more about its structure, which when you start out the forum talking about how you like digging deep, but then you don't even know how this really important resource works, especially when another thing that really struck me that I thought was just really offensive was she was asked, or she started talking about a specific stretch in Loring Park of Nicollet Avenue, and talking about like safety issues, and like what she brings up are noise complaints. So it's like, okay,
right.
those
noise enforcement to address pedestrian safety.
Well, and the noise complaints come through 311. So like, if you love noise ordinances so much, why aren't you curious about how this works? But then also, that's an area where we've had like so many shootings recently, like multiple deaths have happened on this stretch of Nicollet. So that she brings up noise complaints, I'm just like, you are not in touch with what's really happening here in this neighborhood, this part of Ward 7. She loves to say like 13-year Ward 7 resident. It's like, okay, well, Elizabeth, I'm a 15-year Ward 7 resident, so
can't top Taylor.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah. If we're doing this, I don't know why we're doing this, considering Katie Cashman's age, but
That's also interesting where she lived, because she brought that up at the beginning.
I myself personally have lived in the Phillips neighborhood and the Wedge over the years.
I don't know if y'all noticed that. She tried to, I don't know, I think also like gain some progressive thread by being like, I've also lived outside of Ward 7. She mentioned the Wedge.
What did she say? Powderhorn and the Wedge? She's name dropping the Wedge.
Yeah, Phillips and the Wedge, I think is what she said. I know. And like implying that they are, like, I know that Ward 7 isn't the most diverse, or at least my neighborhood. Does she live in Cedars Isles? Do you remember?
I think Lowry Hill.
Lowry Hill, yeah. So she recognizes that she lives in a wealthy white area and is like, oh, but at one point I lived in the Wedge, and that's slightly more diverse. So that was interesting.
That's like when candidates say, I used to be a renter. I started out as a renter.
That's how Lisa Goodman talks about her Loring Park days, too. Like, she's like, I used to live in, like, 209 right there. Like,
yeah. And she kind of explicitly said, like, I am pro-renter, and like emphasized it like that to try to convince people.
I am pro-renter.
Which definitely felt like it was responding to comments has heard that she's not pro-renter, and which Katie Cashman rightfully pointed out. She basically said on her We Love Minneapolis questionnaire that she doesn't support any new renter protections.
My opponent did fill out an application for a corporate PAC to support her in this race and answered a question on whether she would support new renters' rights with no new renters' rights are needed.
So yeah, that was a pretty wild reversal. One of the other things, and then she also said, I will not dichotomize voters, looking at my notes here, I will not dichotomize voters between renters and homeowners.
First of all, I will not dichotomize my residents between homeowners and renters.
So she was kind of attacking the whole idea that renters and homeowners be treated differently anyway. But like, there's different needs and different priorities for renters and homeowners. That's not a bad thing.
That is a huge red flag when people say that, because it's always brought up in the context of when a candidate is like, I want to help renters. I want to do renters' rights. I want to do this or that to help renters. And then it's like, why are you being so divisive? We all have the same concerns, which I interpret as, stop talking about that. Let's talk about something else.
She also mentioned how her park board district is more diverse than Ward 7. I don't know what the point was there, but again, she was like trying to emphasize, like, I have some progressive cred.
Right. I know people in Whittier.
Yeah, basically.
Well, what has she done for Elliott Park? I mean, what?
Taylor, can you help flesh out who Elizabeth Shaffer is by telling us about campaign finance stuff? Who supports Elizabeth Shaffer? I understand that she's the FRIPAC in the FRIPAC coalition.
Yeah, everybody. It's like, the Scott Graham, any powerful money resource. The We Love Minneapolis put money behind her. All of Minneapolis put money behind her. Anybody in Ward 7, Mike Erlinson, just the standards. She did have, it came up at the Ward 7 forum that some of her donors also have given money to Republicans. Like, the guy that we met who also was a character on our Cedar Lake encroachment tour, and it's so, like, there is an element of, and then at her kickoff event, she had the CD5 MNGOP chair there. So, I don't know if we've had a chance to look into like the latest, like a newer campaign finance report to go through the individual donors quite as much too, but I wouldn't be surprised if there's more just straight up Republicans, just given the way that Mitch was there, Mitch Rosso.
Yeah, she's maybe the best funded council candidate challenger that I have ever seen. I don't know if anyone has ever raised this much as a challenger for city council in Minneapolis. The only person I can think of with more money in their account is maybe Lisa Goodman, but that was after 20 plus years of building it up and not really having much competition. So extremely well funded. And it is maybe, says something about Elizabeth Shaffer as a candidate, that she has all this money and so many advantages and is maybe not much of a favorite. It's kind of a 50-50 race if you believe the polling that the FRIPACs, that Taylor unearthed from the FRIPAC.
I'm going to ask Taylor, I think, unless I'm thinking of a different candidate, the other interesting thing about Elizabeth Shaffer was that, we found that she had donated to her brother, who is a Republican candidate, which people can argue of whether that's legit or not. It's your brother. Maybe if you love him and think he's great, then you would still donate to him. But I believe she also had not donated to any Democratic candidates, until very recently, which also seems like at least a yellow flag for somebody who is wealthy enough to live in Lowry Hill, nice house.
If you're, talking about being a lifelong Democrat and all this stuff after that, that's definitely something to question. Only coming into the park board race in 2021 after the convention, describing yourself as a non-ideological pragmatist or whatever, in contrast to Jono back then.
Yeah, that is actually something I wanted to point out, the pragmatist thing, just for folks who are not in the know about Minneapolis politics. If you see somebody calling themselves a pragmatic candidate, pragmatic progressive candidate, that's kind of Minneapolis code for conservative to moderate.
Right. As if anyone thinks of themselves as, well, I have ideas, but they're all bad and they don't work. It's such a weird way to describe yourself. Because the unspoken there is everyone else is a fool besides me. I know the right way.
She even also, to that point, said, and I don't know if this is intentionally ageist, but she did say that the council needs to be more fiscally responsible and they need more, quote, mature leadership, which was an interesting choice of words on her part, being much older than Katie Cashman.
That's deliberate.
She's very wealthy, and so has a lot of money to donate to candidates if she wanted to, and yet, like, I think you can find her on like Anton Melton Muck's campaign finance report, which was a primary against Dahlin. So she'll like donate to Democrats in primaries, but you don't find her donating to Democrats who are running against Republicans. And that doesn't mean she's a Republican. It just means, like, are you actually a progressive who cares about causes? Or are you just kind of a moderate who's out here to stick it to the far left election to election? Like, weren't you devoting this energy to defeating the right wing? This energy and resources. She has lots of resources. Like, where has this activism been before you wanted to get into local politics and run against Minneapolis progressives?
And that's something I appreciate about Katie as well. She talked about it at the forum that she worked for, she's a climate activist as a career. She worked for the UN doing climate work and then worked for Sierra Club. So she knows how to organize. She has spent her life being devoted to progressive causes.
Well, and we know what, like Shaffer, remember John? Shaffer was saving fountains before she decided to run for office.
That's true. She went to the neighborhood association and said, you guys sure are spending a lot of money on affordable housing. Could we move this over to restore the elaborate fountain that we like to look at from our front yards? I think it was like $200,000 that she had. She helped to move from affordable housing. So we've talked a lot about Elizabeth Shaffer, and we're going to keep talking about Elizabeth Shaffer. So what was her campaign thinking with that questionnaire answer? Maybe it's just her responding to these, but like, you can't see into the future long enough to know if you put down you support no additional renters' rights on paper in response to a questionnaire, that could like be a problem for you down the road. Like, do you not foresee that maybe you'd have to at least look like you're supportive of renters' rights? I'm very confused by that campaign decision to answer no to that question. I guess the urge to like satisfy the PAC donor class of developers and landlords was just so high during the DFL primary or the DFL caucus process that she's like, sure, I'll put that down. That's who's giving me all this money. I have to keep them happy. But now she's kind of hedging. Just like, I'm puzzled by the decision to answer the questionnaire that way.
I think, yeah, that's definitely part of it. It was a PAC's questionnaire, We Love Minneapolis. And notably, We Love Minneapolis does not exist anymore as a PAC. And therefore, I don't think you can easily find that. Like, I have a link to it that I've saved, and I think it's saved on the Internet Archive. But I don't know, maybe she was told that beforehand, that maybe don't worry about this, it won't be on the internet forever. Who knows?
Or maybe she thought this is just for their eyes only. Mm-hmm. I was kind of surprised that survey got made public. Mm-hmm. Like, you're making your candidates look kind of bad with some of these answers. I thought reading that, I'm like, thank you for making this public, because I don't think it makes your people look as good as you think. You genius strategist, Joe and Nico, I don't think you were making them look as good as you thought.
to be fair to her, she did win the DFL endorsement. So if that was the goal, get enough rich people to support me to win the DFL endorsement, she succeeded.
That was a miserable room. I was just, that was not, hopefully not a representative sample of Ward 7 at the Ward 7 DFL convention. She got her 60% there in that room. Let's talk about Katie Cashman, the incumbent, only been in office 2 years. One of the amazing things is all this resentment against Katie Cashman has grown in just 2 years. They had Lisa Goodman for 26. They were so happy that part of the ward. And just 2 years of Katie Cashman has inspired all of this anger and resentment. And it's remarkable. Katie Cashman has hardly had time to get started. I think she's been a good council member. I appreciate her positions on things like transportation, like just super solid. Couldn't speak more highly of where she is on that issue that I care about a lot. I think she's a really mainstream Minneapolis Democrat. She's not a socialist. I know people are out there trying to label every council member they disagree with as a socialist, including Emily Koski and Katie Cashman. Katie Cashman's pretty mainstream. She's further left than Koski, but not a socialist. Are there other things that I'm missing, Taylor?
Yes.
How do we characterize Katie Cashman?
Not how I characterize her, but one thing that a big chunk of the ward is just going to find unforgivable is that she used the word genocide before she was sworn into office after she was elected, and she signed the ceasefire resolution. And so, like, regardless of how much some people in this ward may agree with her on like actual like issues like transportation plans, et cetera, that's just a black mark, and it's completely unforgivable, and they would never support her because of it.
You know who never brings up the genocide resolution anymore, the Gaza resolution anymore? The people who were complaining about it way back then. It's just gotten that bad that they're embarrassed to use that as an attack line.
Well, and it's just such a mind game around here, because it's like, you can tell people like, well, Katie voted for the police budget, and then they say, well, it doesn't matter because she voted enough with DSA people, like aligned with them, that so it's just to some extent she just can't win with like so much of the ward, and a big chunk of that is like places like Kenwood are used to being like getting top of the line service, but Kenwood doesn't have issues in the same way like Warren Park does that like a 311 can solve. So it's just an issue of where like maybe Katie's devoting more resources to other parts of the ward that have historically been more or less advantaged, and the people that got the attention are not happy.
Mm-hmm. And she's been unequivocally for more police funding and more police officers in a way that she differentiates herself from, like, her votes differentiate her from the more progressive council members. So it's just like there's no question about it. The police budget has gone up. Katie Cashman is just unequivocal in her support for higher budgets, but she's also been like, you can count on her to hold the mayor and his police department accountable. That's the real difference here between Shaffer and Cashman, I think, is you'd get a Rainville or Vitaw style, just pro-police, no questions for the police department at all. We can't question them. We must support them. Like, how dare you question the funding for the horse police? We would lose accountability with Shaffer because she would be in that Rainville and Vitaw mold. Like, what do you think, Heather?
Yeah, I agree. I am to the left of Katie politically. I probably would not have supported a raise to the police in this particular environment when they've not shown much accountability. But I think that is probably one of the only things I disagree with her about, and I totally agree that she is, if she was running against a far left candidate, I think probably these same people would be championing her. I think they actually probably agree with her on a lot of issues. I think one of the big things Shaffer tried to attack her on at the forum was small businesses and how she's not good to business. But she is. She championed this Vibrant Storefronts initiative to try to get more businesses to Uptown. she's just, you're right. They can't really attack her on many points of substance. And so they just kind of lump her into the scary DSA side of the council, even though most of them are not DSA, and claim that, so like one of the things she said, that I thought was interesting, so that the current city council is anti-small business, and Shaffer said that we can be yes and small business and labor, and like how? She didn't elaborate on how. And similarly, she made a comment about how she campaigned, Elizabeth Shaffer campaigned to save 70 trees in the Hennepin Avenue redesign. And we're like, oh, that sounds great if you're not paying attention. But like both of these issues have multiple sides, and there are reasons why people like Katie kind of look at all sides of the issue and try to come to a reasonable conclusion, rather than just always siding with business over labor, for example, which seems to be what Shaffer is suggesting she will do.
There was a question and answer like that at the Ward 7 convention about just the council just hating on business. We have an anti-business council is Shaffer's line. And the only thing I can think that's a reference to, I'm trying to think like, what is that? What is the issue underlying that? And I think it's the Labor Standards Board vote. Like, it's the only thing I can think of. And what people need to understand about that is the Labor Standards Board would have been, if it hadn't been vetoed by the mayor, an advisory committee. So like we have a pedestrian advisory committee, a bicycle advisory committee, like an aging advisory committee. We have a bunch of advisory committees. They have no real power. They put ideas forward to the council, and it would have been a little different than some of these other advisory boards. But bottom line, they couldn't do anything on their own. Like the council decides whether to pass legislation, whether to amend it, and then the mayor gets to veto it like anything else. Like it's an advisory board. So the idea that that's like anti-business in a serious way to support having a board where employers and workers come together and put forward policy ideas is just mind-boggling. Like I think that's what a bunch of business owners are probably feeling, but it's not true. And Elizabeth Shaffer must know better than to characterize it that way. But it's really over the top to say we have an anti-business council because of that vote on the Labor Standards Board.
I think the other thing they frequently bring up is to the Hennepin Avenue point, like they say that anybody who supported or spoke positively about the Hennepin Avenue redesign is anti-business because the reconstruction has hurt businesses around Hennepin Avenue, which is totally fair. It's very difficult to access the businesses right now. But as you pointed out before, John, this construction was going to happen no matter what. It was just a matter of approving. The council had to approve the design that the street would have. And the progressive side of the council championed designs that had more pedestrian and bike and bus options, which are more environmentally friendly, which aligns with our values as a city, the stated values of the city, and aligns with Katie Cashman's environmental stances. So again, she just does a lot of misrepresenting, especially at this last forum, of like, oh, well, I saved 70 trees, that implying that Katie Cashman would have cut down 70 trees for no reason, when
Right.
That's not what it was about at all.
Right. And so planning for street projects goes back to like the Bender council presidency, if we're talking about Hennepin Avenue. Just like they have to line up funding from different levels from the federal government, and there's engagement. Like this engagement goes back maybe to like the 2010s. So like you can't even blame Aisha Chugtai for Hennepin Avenue, because all of that stuff precedes her. And like I remember when Scott Graham promised that he would stop the Hennepin Avenue reconstruction in 2023, yep. As they were doing utility work on Hennepin Avenue. The construction had begun, and Scott Graham is promising people at candidate forums he's going to stop it. Like, no, there's too much momentum, Scott, unless you're going to chain yourself to a bulldozer, as Taylor likes to say.
He was our hero.
Oh, you think he was? He was going to chain himself to that bulldozer.
This is Scott Graham's last stand.
Oh, actually, so interesting. Okay, so I just Googled, I was going to say, just off the point of labor, reminded me, for anybody who is interested in labor, if that's your key issue, Google the LIUNA website, Minneapolis voters don't re-elect or promote union busters. This is a good article by A.G. Lange, as part of LIUNA, about a couple years ago, park board fight, renegotiation, strike, and talks about how Katie joined them on the picket line, supported a resolution to come to an agreement, whereas Shaffer did nothing, made their lives more difficult, and then took credit for the agreement after the fact. And just in general, talking about unions and labor, I just Googled to get to Katie Cashman's website and see that both SEIU has taken out a Google ad supporting Katie, and then all of Minneapolis has put out a ad on Google opposing Katie Cashman. So that kind of tells you something too. SEIU has paid to promote her. But yeah, go to their respective website endorsement pages and look at their list of endorsement if you care about labor.
It's hotly contested. Everyone on both sides realizes how key this race is. So, Taylor, does Elizabeth Shaffer feels like a person with no friends? It feels like, is anyone willing to endorse her? Can you tell us who the endorsements are there?
The first one was, I think Andy Luger, whatever, who is also like her neighbor. He lives like on the same block practically. And then it was like DeWanna Witt, the sheriff, the mayor, which took a while. Like he was at her kickoff that was held at Brewhaven, and curiously wasn't featured in any of the photos anyone really shared at first. But yeah, those were like her first big three. And after that, I stopped paying attention. It's probably like the Rainville Coalition. There's not as many as I was expecting from her.
Yeah, you'd think got so much money, has a powerful, well-resourced coalition behind her. Mm-hmm. But, like, you can't, like, who are the orgs endorsing her? I'm going to look at the endorsement page.
Yeah, I have it up. Okay. The only orgs are the Carpenters Union, the Firefighters Union, and Moms Demand Action Gun Sense Candidate, which isn't a really endorsement. They give that whoever has decent gun rights positions. Those are the only orgs. And otherwise it's, yes, as you said, Taylor, Lene Palmisano, Michael Rainville, Latricia Vitaw.
Yeah, and
Steve Kramer. That's an important one. Steve Kramer.
Carpenters,
both the former and current CEOs of the Downtown Council.
Yeah, and the Carpenters and Firefighters are just standard for any, moderate. Her son's a firefighter, so there's a connection there. Not a lot of excitement around her.
The word I use, let's go around, let's do a round table on this one. The word I use is bleak to describe Elizabeth Shaffer. Taylor, what word comes to mind when you think of Elizabeth Shaffer?
I don't know if it's just like kind of uninspiring.
Okay. Heather?
I'd say anxiety. She seems she presents herself as having a very frantic energy. And then it also produces anxiety in me because of her bad positions on
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You think so?
Yeah.
It's interesting that you say that, because I can kind of see it, but I kind of see her as kind of a subdued person, and you see her as like a little bit frantic.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think it's a little bit of both, where she presents herself as very like calm and reasonable, but she feels very intense to me. Like I wouldn't personally feel comfortable like sitting down and having a heart-to-heart conversation with her. I would feel like she is like about to run off and do something else and doesn't really care. Whereas I've had plenty of pleasant conversations with Katie Cashman.
I think she's awkward, but like I've had a couple shorter conversations. And, like, I don't think she's. Yeah, I think she's just kind of maybe awkward, and
that could be it.
Well, who isn't awkward? I can relate to being.
Yeah,
awkward.
exactly.
But
yeah.
I think I could see. You said, did you say intense, Heather? Is that how you phrased it? After intense,
yes.
I could see intense. her responses at the park board meetings always kind of pained. It's like, but maybe that's because I'm watching meetings about things like the mall vote and the issue of the ADA ramp to the Greenway in Whittier, where she's like overturning well-considered plans that have funding from other levels of government, and she has to act. Like, there are some really good reasons for me doing this very terrible thing, and I'm so pained to be doing it, but the stakeholders have come to me and we have to do it. She's always very pained when she's explaining things at the park board. So I could see that intensity that you're talking about. And those two issues really just upset me, because with the mall, they were going to turn some parking into park space at the mall in Uptown, which is not a shopping mall. It is like a park. For listeners who don't know what the Uptown Mall is, it's like a park with it's essentially acting as a parking lot when it's really parkland. And so those are technically parkways where people are parking. And some of that road space would have been turned into green space and plantable space. And it was in the park board's long range plan. The Met Council was going to come through with money to pay for it. So free money for the park board to implement their own plan. And Elizabeth Shaffer engineers this thing where several of her allies on the park board are like, what about emergency vehicles? And they end up voting to rebuild the mall exactly as is, which is also not compliant with the fire department standard for emergency vehicles. So that was all pretend. She did the same thing earlier with the ADA ramp to the Greenway. The county was going to pay for it. And she's like, no, we won't do that. I have stakeholders coming to me saying we shouldn't do this. I don't like the way she has operated on the park board. And one of her lines was, I will govern as I have governed on the park board. Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking, I don't like that at all. No. Let's not do that.
No, I don't like the youth programming vote that she voted to take the 3 youth programming jobs. And then especially when you live in Lowry Hill and you know that, like, I mean, Lowry Hill in particular has dealt with like carjackings by like bored like teenagers. So it's like you take away youth programming jobs, but then you're like, oh, why are all these kids driving the carjackings around my neighborhood? It's like, well, you're eliminating like one option. And it's like, get rid of that and to pave a couple 100 feet of pavement instead. It's just very like, I just don't think she understands how these decisions like trickle down, or maybe she does. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the other park board action that I didn't like, that luckily failed, but she was, I think, one of only a couple, or maybe the only one on the park board to support making marijuana smoking in the parks a petty misdemeanor rather than just a citation, which may not seem like that big of a deal, but others on the park board rightfully pointed out that, like, especially, here's another way in which other folks are thinking about the Trump administration's impact on us, and she is not, where they rightfully pointed out, especially in the Trump administration, when, for example, they're deporting people because they have a traffic ticket, we need to minimize as much as possible the ways people are getting legal records, criminal records, based on something that is as silly as smoking in the park. And I think it was a good decision to say we don't smoke in the park, but I don't see why she felt the need to say people who do it definitely need to have a criminal record.
Can either of you think of issues that we have not covered?
The one other thing she said at the forum on related to public safety is, you alluded to it earlier, Taylor, how you mentioned she said she was concerned about noise issues on this by Loring Park, basically, near the Lotus restaurant is what she said. And what was particularly concerning about that is the question was something like, what are the two most important public safety issues affecting Ward 7? And that was what was top of mind for her. And if you look on her website, like on her priorities, she mentions how like graffiti and property crime and about how we need to take those things more seriously. But then a couple questions later, they ask about gun violence, and she's like, gun violence is a scourge on our city or something like that. And I'm like, okay, if you're really concerned about gun violence, then maybe it's strange that you're talking about noise ordinances and property crime as the biggest problem in Ward 7. Again, it seemed like maybe disjointed thinking where maybe for a second she slipped and said her real thoughts about public safety in Ward 7.
Was that in addition to the question about like pedestrian and street safety, where she's like, we're doing noise enforcement? Did she bring up noise enforcement twice to two different questions?
Yeah, they asked what the most prominent safety issues featuring Ward 7, and she specifically mentioned Nicollet Avenue in Loring Park. And that's why I mentioned earlier, this is what that she said, this is a top safety issue, when this is the same intersection where we've had and when I tweeted this, I actually quote tweeted my old post of a memorial that happened to someone that was shot and killed at that section. So that's what I meant when I said that she's out of sync with the priorities of Loring Park. When she comes and talks about noise ordinances, these are areas where we have people being shot and killed. So that's what I meant. It's just you bring up safety issues, and then it's also how are you going to say that you care about graffiti, but you don't know how 311 works? How do people report graffiti? Where's the curiosity?
It was so. I was fist pumping in my mind when she's like, I need to learn more about that. You're a park commissioner. I believe the city's 311 system also handles park board issues. I can complain about a park sidewalk through 311 too. It's not totally it's related to her current job to know about these things. To say I don't know and I need to learn more. I'm she really flubbed a bunch of stuff. She was a little bit nervous. In addition to the hedging, she's not very confident going into the end. And I'm thinking, yes, Katie Cashman might have this.
Yeah, that's how I felt at the end too. I was oh, this went really, really good for Katie. I thought she her closing statement especially just completely nailed what's going on here. That Katie said she stands up for the workers, she stands up for the renters, she stands up for the immigrants and all these other typically marginalized communities in the ward. And she said, and that's probably why I even have a challenger to begin with.
I have championed change for this city. I have championed the workers of our city. I have championed the renters of our city. I have championed the immigrants of our city, the pro-choice community, the LGBTQ community. I have championed all the groups that are most impacted by policies in our city, and the change that I've championed for is likely why I have a challenge. But I'm proud of the change that I've brought about in this community.
And it's because it's not a matter of that she's not doing anything for the community, it's that she's not doing it for the right people anymore. The Lisa Goodman constituency.
Well, Taylor and Heather, I feel like at the end here, we've come to the conclusion that Elizabeth Shaffer is not a very good candidate, and we would not like to see her win.
Oh, very bad.
Yeah, I think that's unanimous.
And we think Katie Cashman is pretty solid, and we like her a lot, and we would prefer that she wins.
Yep.
Yeah. Katie already.
Yeah,
Katie's been doing a lot in the last couple of days, just helping out with getting the C. David George building in Loring Park taken care of again. We've gotten it sealed. She's gotten it sealed back up twice. So
I'm glad we could come to a consensus here at the end. Unexpected consensus about all the issues here. Also, Elizabeth Shaffer, you are always invited. I have invited Elizabeth Shaffer to have a conversation with me. I met her biking on the Hennepin Avenue bike lane one evening, and I was like, hey, Elizabeth Shaffer, you come on the podcast maybe? And she's like, I'll think about it. And she thought about it and she decided not to. And that's unfortunate. But the invitation is still open.
Yeah, maybe you should reach out to her again if she has now decided she needs to support progressive voters. Maybe she'll reconsider. Right.
Maybe the attitude is different. Maybe not after this episode where we have come to the consensus that she's no good. Well, but the veil is off.
Could have done it
before. The veil of
this.
Impartiality on the Wedge Life podcast is off.
Oh.
It's crunch time here. Heather, would you like to promote anything you're affiliated with here at the end? Because I didn't give you much of an introduction.
Sure. I'm part of the Southwest Alliance for Equity, SWAE, spelled SWAE, which is just a group. It's an organizing group that sprung up after 2020 to organize Southwest specifically, which is the most white and conservative area of Minneapolis, but there are a lot of scattered progressives. We just wanted to all come together kind of for a common good. So you can follow them on Blue Sky and Instagram. And then I personally have a blog called Minneapolis Musings, so mplsmusings.com, where I blog kind of infrequently, but I am going to put out more content, possibly on Ward 7, but also definitely on the mayor's race. So check me out there.
There's a person who has an account, Minneapolis Mutterings.
That's not me.
That's unfortunate because I don't think they agree with you.
Oh, no. I'll have to check that out.
Brand confusion. Minneapolis Mutterings, not the same as Minneapolis Musings.
I'm going to start Minneapolis Mumblings.
Taylor, you could be editor-in-chief of Minneapolis Mumblings. Taylor, do you have anything to promote?
I hear there's a mayoral actual debate coming.
Oh, really? Where? Who's sponsoring?
I heard about it. I heard it's next week. Unfortunately, I've heard there are 5 candidates invited.
Okay.
Better than 14 or whatever. Was it the last one?
Yeah, I just wish it...
Better than the clown car.
I just wish it would be 4. I haven't had a chance to look into more, but apparently it's coming next week. So there's an actual proper debate, which will be good.
Speaking of, I don't think I showed off my shirt. Don't Rink Cry.
Oh,
that's my secondary concern. First, vote for Katie Cashman, and then Don't Rink Cry.
I was watching the TV news and there were like 5 candidates for Minneapolis mayor respond. I'm like, no, there are not 5 candidates. Don't do this to me.
I just come on. I know, can we just all agree that there are 4?
It's taken up valuable news real estate. We only have so much time in our heads. Most people are not like us. And we don't want to clutter people's brains with the idea there are more than 4 options here.
Well, this is why we have to move and not we have to tell people who to rank. We have to say rank Davis, Hampton, Jazz. We can't just say don't rank Fry anymore because there's too many candidates. And especially, quite frankly, with Brenda being the only woman, there will be people who are like, I'm going to vote for her. She's a woman. So it's we have to say these are the 3 people to rank.
Yes. I can't endorse that, Taylor, because I'm a nonpartisan news source, but that's your perspective.
Oh, we are?
People can
I thought we were partisan bloggers. I thought I can't keep it straight. What are we?
You're our left-wing columnist and photographer, and I'm nonpartisan.
Okay.
As the editor.
You're the Walter Cronkite.
You might need to edit the previous parts of this then, where you talk about how bad Elizabeth Shaffer is and how good Katie Cashman is.
Oh, no, well, that's just objective. That is purely objective analysis.
Okay, that's the facts. Perfect.
That's Hot Dog Larry Jacobs speaking. Okay. Thank you both. This has been the Wedge Live podcast. I'm your host, John Edwards. Thank you for listening.
I am pro-renter. I myself personally have lived in the Phillips neighborhood and the Wedge, and the Wedge, and the Wedge. I am pro-renter.
This is a real thing. Real thing.
None of you have the balls to stop this. Stop this.
I've got plenty of time. I have nothing else going on today.
We're in the Wedge neighborhood right now.